Ladies and gentlemen, I think we have a huge week that is coming into the markets. What I'm going to be talking about is the FOMC meeting that's going to be happening Wednesday morning time. It's going to be Pacific Standard Time here. That's going to be about 11:30 for the press conference, which will release the interest rate decision from Jerome Powell, from the Fed, right? And see how the markets react to that, as well as to what he says during that press conference. Now, I do want to show you guys something here that could be a front running signal for Bitcoin, which, of course, it is the driver of this crypto markets. If Bitcoin has more room to pump, that's going to be very good for the altcoins. However, if Bitcoin dumps, that is still very bad for the altcoins. So regardless if you guys are trading altcoins, Bitcoin, or both, right? You want to be paying attention to Bitcoin. Okay. I never trade altcoins without a clear understanding of Bitcoin because that could very much wreck my trades. Now let's go ahead and talk about some charts later in this video. I'm gonna be pointing out to you guys a front running signal that I'm seeing here, which is gonna be very important. This is gonna be the S&P 500 chart here. Okay, we're also going to be talking about some meme coins later in this video. I think right now would be a pretty good time to be talking about meme coins, as Bitcoin looks like it could also break out of its bearish pattern as well because of this possible signal here. Now, we're going to be talking about WIF, which is dogwifhat. We're going to be talking about PNUT, the squirrel, as well as Memecoin. That's the name of the coin, is MEMEUSDT. See what's happened in these coins and what are their current price targets and trading patterns for any opportunities. Let's go ahead and dive into some news first, some major economics news and crypto news that could affect the markets before diving into the charts. I'm going to be giving you guys my reactions to some of these major headlines. So let's go ahead and put our critical thinking hats on because some of these headlines could be ridiculous. All right. This is by News BTC. Ethereum outflows signal strength. 56,000 Ethereum pulled from exchanges. Now, without getting into too much context of this news piece here, whenever I do hear that outflows, or coins are being pulled from exchanges, that is usually a good sign because when they are actually in the exchanges, that means they're probably, when they're transferred to exchanges, that's probably a sign that they're going to get dumped onto the market. However, when they're pulled from exchanges, that means, probably someone has bought them and has stored them away, which is good because that's less supply on the market. And when the demand comes in, then the price would go up quicker. Okay. Next piece here is by B in Crypto. The Fed under fire, is America's monetary crisis accelerating the rise of Bitcoin? I definitely think so because, if the Fed is going to be printing more money, is going to be lowering interest rates, that's going to drive cheaper money into this market. Okay, and that's basically what we have seen back in 2021 when interest rates were low or at zero, and back in the 2010s. Okay. Next is by You Today. Gemini founders say Bitcoin headed to $1 million is still early. Yeah, I think there's definitely a chance that Bitcoin heads to $1 million, but what is the time frame? And during that time frame, there's going to be a lot of ups and downs. That doesn't mean that I'm going to just, sit here on my Bitcoin and wait for it to head to possibly $1 million. because what if it doesn't, and what if it tanks, along the way during this unspecified time frame, right? What I do is I like to take profits, and I do think that's going to be, that's my game plan going forward in this bull cycle, because no cycles last forever. Not bull cycles, not bear cycles, not sideways cycles. I hope you guys have a game plan to do that as well. Next piece here is by NewsBTC. Analysts say Bitcoin is a strong buy if it overcomes 118K. Here's why. We're gonna take a look into the Bitcoin chart later. But I really do see that the resistance is gonna come at 120 plus. And I'll show you guys why I think that is, because that's more important. The why. So the reason will resonate. Of course, I am long on Bitcoin. I am long on quite a bit of the altcoins across the board here. So my opinion on this market is bullish. But of course, these are just my opinions, like the entirety of this video, and not financial advice. You guys should form your own opinions. Next piece here is by NewsBTC, and it says, Bitcoin flips key support. Bulls now target 117K. Yes, I do see a key support that is flipped, and that is basically the daily 50 SMA that was last flipped. I'll show you guys on the chart here. And 117K is about where that 3-day 21 SMA is at. It's about 116, 117. Gonna need a solid candle close above that moving average in order for me to consider that this resistance flips support. All right, let's come back here to the charts. This is the S&P 500 futures chart. It's going to be opening in a couple of hours. This is Pacific Standard Time. And what I'm looking at here is I've been pointing out this to you guys. This is probably more validated on a lower time frame, a rising wedge. It looks like it could be breaking out of this rising wedge here. But something else I want to point out to you guys is that there is an invalidation of bearish divergence on this weekly time frame, which is significant. What I'm talking about here is this now higher high on this weekly time frame comparing to the previous high here on the week of August 18th. And if we're seeing it on the RSI, it has basically invalidated the last week's bearish divergence scenario. Okay, so that is significant. Could this be a front-running signal for Bitcoin? Because this is highly correlated with Bitcoin. It is a risk on stocks are risk on assets. Okay, so let's take a look into the daily time frame for ES1 exclamation mark. Right here, this is the rising wedge pattern. Basically, it has already invalidated, broken out of that rising wedge pattern here. That's a candle close above the pattern. So in my opinion, it has already broken out of this pattern here. That is just my take. So this is a very good sign for Bitcoin. Could Bitcoin follow? And of course, if Bitcoin follows, so will Ethereum and Total 3. Let's go ahead and come to Bitcoin here. I'm going to be taking a look into the daily time frame here. Now, there are still some mixed signals for Bitcoin on the monthly time frame, weekly time frame, and probably so on. I'm talking about bearish divergence on the monthly time frame, and possible bearish divergence on the weekly time frame when it reaches at about 100 and what was the last highest weekly candle close? It was at about 120K, about 120K weekly candle close. There's possible bearish divergence there, right? But what I'm really looking at here is going to be this huge rising wedge pattern. If Bitcoin can actually break out of this pattern against its probabilities, then that's going to be looking very bullish for this market, for the altcoins. Okay, now just to consider, rising wedges, which is the bearish pattern that Bitcoin is in, has a higher chance of breaking to the downside. Breakdown target would be about 75K. Now, price targets are estimates only, okay? Very much depends on the type of market we're in. I still think we're in a bull market. So I think even if this thing breaks down, it's probably not going to hit 75K. But of course, if this thing breaks to the upside, which has a smaller chance of breaking out to the upside, but if it does, looking very bullish for the crypto markets, even for the shorter term. Okay, let's come over here to total 3 just to recap very quickly. Because it hit that 1.15 trillion market cap, and it's taking a pullback right now. Okay, I've been talking about this, but is this a big deal? I don't think so, because if Bitcoin, I mean, this is gonna follow Bitcoin here, but I still don't think this is a big deal, because I think it's pretty normal to take a pullback here, especially with some divergence, but this is still a cup and handle pattern if we actually zoom out, and cup and handles usually break to the upside. This is zooming quite a bit out here. Going back to even 2021, huge cup and handle pattern. So let's just see when this thing breaks out, even though on a shorter time frame, it's taking a little bit of a pullback. All right, let's come over here to I mean, I could talk about this chart again too for Ethereum just real quick. Let's talk about this real quick, because Ethereum follows Bitcoin and altcoins are going to follow Ethereum. This is the daily charts for Ethereum. I talked about this. It looks like the bears are wrecked for this Ethereum pattern here. What I'm talking about here is this rising wedge pattern, right? For Ethereum, breakdown target was about 3,600. The bears basically got faked out here, because it tried to break down. It went as far down as about 4,200 before the bulls bought it right back up, and basically had a solid break back into this rising wedge pattern, basically invalidating it. So the bears were looking for a breakdown. It got a very short breakdown, and the bulls actually bought it back up, and this looks like it could be retesting all time highs here. Okay, and possibly making new all time highs soon for Ethereum. So let's go ahead and go to let's go to WIF first. dogwifhat trading currently at about 92 cents. What is WIF doing right now? So I haven't covered this coin for a little while. Let's see what has changed. Let's come over to the weekly time frame. Weekly time frame, I talked about this falling wedge pattern. You guys should learn how to chart falling wedge patterns. It's the most common, most effective, powerful pattern. If you guys start charting it now, falling wedges are bullish patterns that usually breaks back out to the upside, and this one broke back out to the upside. This is the weekly time frame. This one broke back out to the upside on the week of February 10th. Price target for this breakout is still about $3 for WIF. It hasn't done too much. It has even gone down after the breakout, but the breakout is still valid because the price action has been above this upward trend line of the pattern it broke out of. It has formed a few more falling wedges after the breakouts and the rebounds. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about this one. Falling wedge here, it broke out back in June 24th. This is the daily time frame now. Price target here will be about $1.43. Now, it has broken out of this one, and it has also formed another falling wedge pattern here. It broke out back on September 7th, and price target here will be about $1.30. Okay, so let's see if WIF can start hitting some of these targets before hitting that bigger $3 target. Now, like I said, price targets are estimates only. It's going to depend a lot on what happens with Bitcoin. If Bitcoin starts dumping, these price targets, these setups are not going to be worth much. So very, very important to be keeping an eye out on Bitcoin. This is Memecoin. That's the literal name of the coin, and it's MEMEUSDT. Let's see what has happened with this coin here. Let's come to the weekly time frame just for a little bit of a recap. Memecoin here, falling wedge pattern, broke out of here on the week of July 7th. Price target would be about 2.7 cents. Price target. It just broke on top of the weekly 21 SMA, right? The blue line here at about 0.2 cents. It is the next key resistance on the weekly time frame here is going to be about 0.57 cents, 0.58 cents price targets. No. Resistance, that's the weekly 50 SMA, the white line here. Let's take a look into a lower time frame and see if I can get any more clarity on what Memecoin is doing. So I talked about a falling wedge pattern here, probably more validated on a lower time frame. Broke out of here back in September 2nd. Price target would be about 0.345 cents price target. It is trying to get on top of the daily 21 SMA as resistance. Let's take a look into a smaller time frame and see if I can get some more clarity here. Could this be a falling wedge pattern that is still forming? Because I'm still trying to get at least 3 candles touching on the upward trend line here. It looks like it could be some sort of a falling wedge shape. No, this isn't it, because this is a I don't think this is a falling wedge, because the channel seems to be widening. It should be at least narrowing, okay? So this is not it. So let's go ahead and go to the next coin here, and that's what I'm seeing for Memecoin on the daily time frame. Okay, PNUT, the squirrel. See what's happening with PNUT. It's the weekly time frame here, and what I'm seeing are a few falling wedges that has broken to the upside. Okay, let's take a look into probably the 3-day time frame for some more clarity. Okay. 3-day time frame. PNUT has broken out of this falling wedge pattern here back on the 3-day candle of June 27th. Price target here would be about 42 cents. It hasn't hit that price target yet, but the breakout is still valid. Okay. And since the breakout here, it has formed 2 more falling wedge patterns. And it broke out of this one back on August 5th. Price target for this one would be about just above 30 cents. And after the breakout here, it has also formed another falling wedge, right? It's not uncommon to see falling wedges form after a breakout of another falling wedge pattern, because there could be quite a bit of resistance after the breakout. And in this case, you see quite a bit of daily moving averages that are resistances that PNUT has actually just gotten on top of. You got your daily 21 SMA and your daily 200, daily 50 SMA, all ranging from about 22 cents to 23 cents now. That is going to be support. So PNUT has actually met this price target and some more of about 27 cents. It has met that, right, as you guys can see. So let's see if it can hit about 30 cents before heading to about 42 cents, okay? So that's basically what I'm seeing for PNUT. Let me know if you guys want to continue seeing any more of these coins or any other coins in this market by dropping a like, comment, subscribe. I'll pick a request to do for you guys on a daily basis. I'll see you on the next one.